kindergarten. It's Mrs. Griffith. It's time for our big book for the week. It's probably one that you recognize, I'll bet, because it's about a curious little monkey, and his name is George. Have you read stories about this little monkey before? I'll bet you have. Curious George is our main character there, and today we're going to read a story called You Can Do It, Curious George. And this book was written and illustrated by Margret and H.A. Ray. And Margret and H.A. Ray were a husband and wife who worked as a team to write Curious George books. Wasn't that marvelous? So you can do it, Curious George. So I see him carrying a kite along, and the title says, You Can Do It, Curious George. So that's a bold beginning. It makes me really want to read this book. I'm wondering, can he fly a kite? That's my prediction. I don't know. But I think this book is going to be about something that Curious George can do. So let's read this book together and find out what it is that he can do. We know Curious George likes to do a lot of things. All right, here we go. There's the title page. Margret and H.A. Ray's You Can Do It, Curious George. And there he is. So here we are at the beginning of the story. This is George. He was a good little monkey and always very curious. George loved going to the museum with his friend. Here they're going to the museum. And to be curious means you want to know why things happen. George was very curious. While they were visiting the museum, they saw a sign. The sign said that the museum had won a prize. People voted this museum as their favorite. They said this museum was the best. And the word best is in capital letters there, so I know I want to really emphasize that with my voice. And the man in the yellow hat is pointing to the sign, and it says, Our favorite museum. It is the best. Well, that must impress George. When George saw the sign, he started to think, what could he do best? He decided to find out. You can do it, George, said the man with the yellow hat. George went back home. He was good at drawing dinosaurs. Maybe he could draw the best dinosaur picture ever. So here's George. He's going to draw the best picture ever. Do you think you've ever drawn the best picture ever? You've drawn some amazing pictures, kindergarten. George decided that he liked to draw, but he wanted to try to do something different. He climbed out, there's our high frequency word out, the window to look, there's our high frequency word look, for ideas. Oh my goodness, there goes George climbing right out the window. He's on to an adventure. Soon, George came to a restaurant. That gave him a great idea. Coming into the restaurant, what in the world do you think George is going to do at a restaurant? What would you do in a restaurant? Oh, I see him in the kitchen. George loved spaghetti. He decided he would make the best spaghetti ever. You can do it, George. Do you think George is going to be good at making spaghetti? Let's find out. Look at all that spaghetti. George thought it tasted great. He tasted more and more of it and made a big mess. Oh my gosh, look at this. He has spaghetti everywhere. Do you think they're going to be happy with George for having all of the spaghetti out of the pot? Oh, then the chef came in. The chef is the person that cooks the meal. Get out, he shouted. Out of my kitchen. Oh, there's an exclamation point there. He said that with a lot of expression. Out of my kitchen. George was going to have to find something else he did best. So far he tried drawing, and then he tried cooking. George needed another idea. He got on a bus to think. The bus took him to the ski slope. My goodness, imagine that. He's gone right up to the ski slopes. You suppose he's going to try to ski? That gave George an idea. He grabbed the biggest sled he could find. Woo! Look at that's a big one. It says large right next to it. And George got on that sled. Woohoo! Look at him go. He's flying down the slopes. Maybe he could sled down the hill faster than anyone ever had before. You can do it, George. Oh my goodness. You've probably sled down a hill so fast as well. At first, sledding was fun. Zig, zag. Look, he's making a zigzag line. There's our letter Z there. Zig, zag. Then George started going too fast. Uh-oh. Look out, George! George was going to have to find something else he did best. Oh my goodness. We get a lot of information from that picture, don't we? George was going so fast, he crashed right into another skier and knocked him right off his skis. George needed another idea. Then he remembered something he did better than anyone. He rushed back home. Here's the sign, says home, pointing that way. When he got there, he took out his kite. He was going to be the best kite flyer ever. There's the picture from the cover, right? So he's tried drawing and cooking and skiing. Now he's going to try kite flying. Oh my goodness. George got his kite to go higher and higher. You can do it, George. Oh my gosh, look. Then the kite lifted George right off the ground. Oh my gosh. Look out below. Whoa, George is sailing right along with a kite. Do you think you'd like to do that? Wow, that would be something. George landed in a tree in the forest. Oh gosh, luckily he landed carefully in that tree. His kite flew away without him. Oh no, George was going to have to find something else he did best. Just then, George spotted smoke. Oh no, it was a forest fire. Why could he see that smoke? I think he could see the smoke because he was up at the top of the tree. He could see where it was coming from. George wanted to warn everybody about the fire. He raced to town and found the fire station. The firefighters quickly put out the fire. There they go. 1, 2, 3, 4. Sirens are going. By now, the sun was setting. It was too late for George to figure out what he did best. Ah, darn. The day is coming to an end. George's friend met him back at the museum. The director had heard that George warned everyone about the forest fire. She thought that was the best thing anyone had done in a long time. So we know that this is the director of the museum because it says she. So we know it's this woman here. George did it! Hooray! He found out what he can do best. He is the best helper. George got a very special prize that day. And he's looking in the mirror, and in his reflection, we can see that he's wearing an award around his neck for being the best helper. Oh, that curious George. He always manages to figure it out at the end, but he always gets into trouble, doesn't he? A little bit of trouble, and then he figures it out, that silly old George. So this was a really fun story. You can do it, Curious George. You had a bold beginning. We found out that George wanted to find out what he did best. And then in the mighty middle, he tried several things, didn't he? He tried drawing, and he tried cooking, and he tried skiing and kite flying. And at the end of the story, he discovered that he was what? The very best helper. The very best helper. You can be the very best helper too at your house. I hope you enjoyed this Curious George story, our big book for the week. See you soon, kindergarten. Bye.